Shalom Mishbraka, meaning peace be unto you, my family. Thank you for stopping by another episode of the Wake Up Yasharel podcast. I am your host, Modern Day Moses. I have been sent by Yahuwah to help wake up Yasharel and bring us out of bondage so we can get ready for the second Exodus, which I'm still going to talk about. Just haven't gotten to yet. There's some introductory things, some foundational things I want to explain before we get into those details. But just know this, just like there was a first Exodus, there's going to be a second. And I believe that the second will parallel much of the first. All right. So today, we're going to do a comparison of Yahuwah's way versus the Western way. So hopefully this will bless you, this will educate you, maybe even in addition to the revelation that Yahuwah has given me, he will give some more to you. And you can even be inclined to share with someone else who may be open to receiving this kind of information, and you can propagate the awakening. And we can just, those of us who are awakened can just multiply and blossom like a nice big beautiful flower, like the trees of cedars of Lebanon, as the Bible or the scriptures often put it. And we can get ready for our Messiah to come back and get us. All right, so here we go. I have made a little chart. As you can see, it says the Western way versus Yahuwah's way. I am learning so much that there are so many ways in which our lives have been turned upside down or inside out, however it might be phrased. Our lives are so pagan that we would never know it. We would not have known it if Yahuwah weren't continuously revealing truths. He is taking off layers and layers of lies. He is taking off that which has been used to conceal the truth. And like I said, not just from us, because the scriptures say that the devil deceives the whole world. So it's not just us he's deceived. He deceived everyone, about whether or not he exists, who Yahuwah is, if Yahusha is real, even if he is real, who the real people are. And I could go on and on. But as time has gone on, he has made the world that we live in increasingly opposite of Yahuwah's intent. So here are some of those things. Just made a rather crude chart to outline some ways in which we live the opposite of Yahuwah's original intent. And again, when I say Yahuwah, that is I think the word is tetragrammaton, as he told Moses, I am has sent you. YHWH in English. In Hebrew, that will be Yod He Vav He, and actually it's Uwa He, because come to find out, there is, just like there's no J in Hebrew, there's actually also no V in Hebrew. So we know that our Savior's name could not be Jesus, and we also know that our Elohim's name, our God's name, Elohim is a word for God, which is a title, not a name, by the way, for some things I'll be repeating over various episodes for those who may come in. They may not watch the intro. They may come in at episode whatever. So as opposed to having them go back and have to, catch up and see where I give explanations. Not that I'll go in great detail, but I'll just, give brief explanations as a rehearsal, because, all this stuff is brand new, to many people. It was new to me. And so I'm sure, one reason you're watching and or listening to this podcast is because it is possibly new to you. Whether you've been saved for 2 months, 2 years, or 20 years, this could very well be new to you. Again, I know that I am sent to wake up Yasharel, the Hebrew name for Israel. So I'm giving you the basics, and, we will go from there. All right. So we have, there are different elements. These are just some of the ways in which our lives are opposite of Yahuwah's ways. So for one, how we tell time. So from the Western world, as far as we know, well, what we've been taught all of our lives is the day begins at sunrise or even, at the break of dawn. And that's kind of a hip hop reference. I'm older, so I was around when hip hop was, first coming out in the 80s. Till the break of dawn is what I'm referring to. But anyway, um, I like to insert a little levity because this is a serious and pretty controversial topic. Even if you're listening or watching this especially 6 months, but a year or two, 5 years after I've already made it, is likely still very controversial. Maybe even to the point of being borderline illegal depending on when you're watching it, because um, the powers that be, the rulers in high places, the people who can control, who have the power and the resources to control what we receive, what we ingest, and how much of it. They don't want us to know the Hasatan, our enemy, also known as Satan or the devil, through certain individuals, certain groups, don't want us to know the truth. Don't want the world, well, Israel and the world, to know who Israel really is, what the Bible or what scriptures are really saying, which is why many books were removed, and that's another story for a different time. Well, I'll give you a little bit. Yeah, the Apocrypha used to be a part of the original Bible until the Catholic Church removed it. I think I mentioned that in the introductory, but I'm not sure. Um, so the people who are in control of the information we receive, the images, sounds, words that we are presented with, don't want people to know the truth because it will cause a wow a shift of unimaginable magnitude, particularly financially. It could cause certain people, certain industries to go bankrupt. If we really knew what Yahuwah wanted for our lives, what His intent was, what His provisions are, what His promises were, what living right means and the benefits thereof, we will drastically change our ways. And doing so would change our purchasing decisions. It would cause us to look at and use the monies available in very different ways, to the point where there will be some things we simply did not purchase, that we simply would not participate in. And that would cause many, just like in Yahushua's day, people got mad, not just because of what he was saying, but the financial effect that it had. So when you hit people's pockets, they get upset. So just like this information, if more people knew, it will begin to hit some pockets. There are some merchants who would either have to shift what and who they sell to, and some will just have to change industries altogether, because there will be things that we would simply stop buying. We would no longer fall for the okie doke, because we will be awakened. We would do better. We would consume differently. As a matter of fact, we probably wouldn't consume as much because we would be producing more things that we can trust, things that are edifying, things that pertain to life and godliness. As Yahuwah said, I give you all things that pertain. I have given, not I will give, but I have given all things that pertain to life and godliness. So, but I don't want to get too much ahead of myself. Let's kind of go through this chart real quick. So as far as the West is concerned, the days go from day to night. You have, as I was beginning to say, so I went, on that tangent. It goes from sunrise to sunset. It goes from 12 o'clock midnight to 12 o'clock midnight. That is the course of a day. Yahuwah, however, says differently. If we look on the right side of my screen, we have verse number 5. And God, or Yahuwah, called the light, or day, or Tob. So yeah, those are I'm speaking the Hebrew words for you. and Yahuwah called the Or Tob. I'm sorry, Tob is not Tob. Tob is good. Um, let's go to the Strongs so I can stop messing it up. He called the Or, what do you call it? Yom. That's the word for day, is Yom. So you could say Yom Tob. Tob means good. So when he said, yes, it was good, he said Tob. So Yom Tob, good day. Or actually, let's see, because Hebrew is left to right. I mean, right to left. There's another point we're going to get to. So in verse 5, it says, and Yahuwah called the Or Yom, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning, not the morning and then the evening, but the evening and the morning were the first day. You know, one thing that is said about salvation is he does what? Brings you out of what? Brings you out of the darkness into the marvelous light. The evening is before the morning. That is what a day, a full day, consists of. And we're going to get into what a day means later. There's some intricacies to this thing, but I don't want to hit you with too much in confusion and give you algebra before you learn how to add and subtract. So let's just stick to the foundation first. So Yahuwah called the light day, the light, that's a good hint though. He called the light day. Day is when there's light. And the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. The first full day started out in the evening and went to the morning. So when the sun sets is actually when a new day begins. So again, you have, according to the West, it goes from day to night as a day, but according to Yahuwah, it goes from night until day. Okay. Secondly, you have the days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Which are all words. And not just words, but pagan words. The days of the week, let's see, Monday is, well, we start off with Sunday, the first day. Back in the day, it was called that, if I'm correct, my memory's kind of escaping me right now, but if I'm correct, it was called Sunday due to Emperor Constantine. He called it Sunday and made it the Sabbath day, the day of worship, because that was the venerable day of the sun. He himself was a pagan. Rome was a pagan nation, and they used to worship the sun. So it's called, and that's why worship takes. If you ever wonder why churches are on Sunday 11 o'clock a.m., particularly in the Israelite community, well, it's not because that's how it always was. Yahuwah set the Sabbath, the day of rest and worship, on the seventh day, what we call Saturday, which is taken after Saturn, which is in Roman Greek god. So they used to worship the sun. So Sunday, he set it to be the day of the venerable day of the sun, he called it. And that's when worship was going to take place. Yahuwah, however, you'll never see in the Bible or in the scriptures, and I'm differentiating the two because in my perspective, as far as I have learned, the Bible is when you say the Bible, you're referring to the modern day King James version that the Catholic Church took it upon themselves to formulate, to curate, to edit. I'm trying to think of the appropriate verb, but kind of all three of those actually fit, and to authorize. The original Bible, well, the oldest Bible known to us, is the Ethiopian Bible, which has 88 books. You can get a Sefer, which is what I have. You can get a hard copy, which is pretty big. Uh, right now, I have the Cepher, Cepher. You can download it to your, well, depending on when you're watching and or listening to this, but you should be able to download it to your smartphone. If you have Google, that'd be the Play Store. If you have an iPhone, that'd be the App Store, and it'll cost around $20 something, and you will have the books from the original Bible, the popular King James version that most Christian churches use. Is actually the third version. The first version was in 1611. The one that we've been using is the third version. Again, that the Catholic Church took it upon themselves to decide which books were important, which ones were not going to be included, which later became known as the Apocrypha, which means hidden ones or hidden books, and then gave us the Bible they wanted us to read. And as you go into the Apocrypha, the book of Susanna and First and Second Maccabees and Baruch, Tobit, Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus, and etc., you will find out why they took it out. There is so much empowering, enlightening information to give you not just revelation, but that will revelation by way of two things. Number one, because you're going to see some deeper truths. And number two, is going to fill in some gaps. It's going to answer some questions that the King James Version, the modern King James Version, leaves open. Some things you might have read, you were like, well, this is kind of a disjointed way of saying this. These two paragraphs don't go together. Well, wow, the scene just abruptly went from here to there. What's going on? Why is the explanation? Where's the explanation for this? Why did this person make this decision? A lot of those questions are answered in the Apocrypha. This right now is being recorded September 13th, 2024 at 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if I would say, in close proximity, maybe, in a year or two from this recording date, you can likely go to, your, like I said, your cell phone's app store, or excuse me, or even online to Amazon. You can go to, as a matter of fact, and I'll show you, I'll open a new tab and show you real quick. You can even go to this BibleStudyTools.com, and if you go to the Browse tab, you can click on, here are the versions of the Bible you can look at. You say click to change, and if you go down, let me get rid of this stuff. You go down and you click on the LXX, which, in the Roman numerals, that is 70. And because that's the Septuagint Bible with the Apocrypha. And so you have these books that you won't see in the King James, but used to be a part of the King James. Again, until Bel and the Dragon, the Epistle of Jeremy, First and Second Esdras, and on and on and on. There's a lot in those books. So I'm also going to caution you, though, as enlightening as it is, when you see the wealth of information that's in those books, and it begins to dawn on you why it was taken out, and you remember who took it out, you might get a little upset. I'm going to let you know it could be kind of triggering. You might be like me and get a little upset because you'll realize the depth, the multiplicity of deceit that has taken place, and the depth to which that deceit has taken place. You may even begin to question your life. I know some of us, he's like, wow, you mean tell me like my whole life has been based on a lie? The unfortunate reality is, I won't say all of it, but a good part of our lives, yes, have been based on deception. We have been misled all of our lives. To varying degrees, we have been misled all of our lives. So if you are a parent, as you are learning better, I'm going to encourage you to raise your children differently. If you aren't a parent, try to just spread the word to your family and friends. I have a friend who is raising his sons in this manner, with this new mentality. which is an excellent thing because unlike us, see, we have to unlearn that which we have learned and relearn the truth concerning everything. This whole chart. His sons, however, they're cognizant of the incorrect way because that's the world we live in. We're all surrounded by it. Nevertheless, and also because his parents, well, he homeschools his children. His wife does. They are growing up knowing the true Hebrew way. They're growing up knowing their original culture. They're cognizant of the American way, but their lifestyle is based on the Hebrew way. So they don't have to worry about missing Christmas and unlearning some bad habits and trying to and remembering and craving for pork and shrimp and all that kind of stuff because they're not raised that way. All right. So, as I was saying, the days of the week, in the American world, they're all based on words, and most of those words, as I was saying, are pagan words. You have Sunday, which is the venerable Constantine called the venerable day of the sun. You have Monday, which is Moon Day, because they also worship the moon. They worship, interestingly enough, they worship their creation, but not the creator, because Yahuwah says he created. Where is it? He created two great lights. Right here. He made two great lights. The greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. Now, here's something else. I don't think it's in here, but I'll include it. It's not in my chart, but I'm going to include it. He said he made two lights. Now, I'm going to hit you with some... It's not, when you think about it, what I'm about to say, it will seem like common sense. But because we just accepted what our teachers told us and what was reinforced by everyone we knew, we just accepted it as the truth, even if you've been in church all your life. So, if he said he made two lights, two great lights, one to rule the day and the other to rule the night, we can surmise that they're talking about the sun and the moon, correct? Now, what were we taught about the moon in particular? If you went to a school like I did, I'm a product of Chicago Public Schools. If you're part of that school system as well, or another major city public school, because they're probably all relatively the same, we were taught that the sun is what makes the moon shine, that the moon reflects light off the sun, but the moon itself is just a dark rock, a dark planet revolving around the earth, and we only see it because of the sun. But our Bible tells us, the word of Yahuwah tells us in verse 16, he made two lights, a greater light to rule the day, the sun, and the lesser light to rule the night. When is the last time that you know of a light that absorbed another light and caught and reflected it? A light source does not reflect light. It emits its own light, correct? So how is it that our educational systems have been teaching us that the moon reflects light off the sun? And it certainly appears that way according to all the images that we've been given. But verse 16, Yahuwah said that he made two lights. That would mean that the moon emits its own light. It shines independent of whatever the sun may be giving it, if it gives it at all. Two independent lights, one to rule the day, the other to rule the night. Both independent. So that was that little side note nugget. So you have Moon Day. Tuesday, I don't recall. Tuesday and Wednesday, I don't know what they are offhand. I don't recall that. I may come back later on. Thursday is based on Thor's day, the Greek god Thor. Friday is, I think, as Frig Day or Frigid Day, something to that effect. Then Saturday is Saturn Day. So all of these words, I don't want to really, you can look those up later on and get greater detail. I probably will too, because now that I'm bringing it up again, I'm intrigued so I can, have my information correct, more correct. But the main thing was that the Western world calls days of the week and months of the year by words. This should also say months of the year. I'll put that as a slash. Months of the year. January, which is from the Greek god Janus, Janus. And I will, since you're looking at my computer, let me show you what Janus looks like. He is a two-headed god. Just as sure as they have put January at the beginning of the year, is named after Janus, an idol god, a false god, a dead god, a small g god that is both looking forward at the future and back at the past. And that is where January comes from. I don't remember all the names, but let's see, I forget where February is from. But March is named after Mars, another Greek god. March, April, June is Junus. July is actually after Julius Caesar, if I'm correct. August, yeah. So a lot of the names, I'm not going to try to give you, I'm not going to sit up here and guess and make anything up. I don't want to give you misinformation at all. But I know a good number of them, probably at least a half dozen of them, of the months of the year are based on pagan gods. But the main point I was saying is they have words behind them. They're given names. But if you go to your word, you will not see in one place where, well, that's not true. In the first month, it's called Abib, also known as Nisan, which coincides on our Gregorian calendar, our Western calendar, between March and April. That's when Abib or Nisan takes place. Same time around Yahusha's birth. We're going to get to holidays in a second. But what you will see all throughout the scripture is when they are referring to a month or day of the week, they use numbers. On the 7th month, on the 10th day, etc., etc. There are no words. Words did not come into play until Babylonian captivity. There is a Hebrew month, Tammuz and Av and Iyar, some other Hebrew months. Let's go ahead and check it out. The Hebrew month names. So I'm not sure if hopefully you can see this. You have Iyar, Sivan, Elul, which is according to the Jewish calendar, that's the month we're in now, Elul, Kislev, Tevet. These names are based on what we adopted them from Babylonian captivity. When Yahuwah kicked us out of Jerusalem because of our idolatry, because of our sin, our disobedience. We went through cycles, as you may be aware, cycles of being blessed and being in disobedience. He will bless us out of captivity. We will start to smell ourselves and be disobedient right again, just like we do today. We're no better. We're no different from our ancient ancestors. And one of those captivities was the Babylonian captivity. And that's where the days of the week and months of the year started to take words. But from a pure Hebraic standpoint, from the original form, it was all numbers. Like I said, in the second month, on the 6th day. So, and for some of the awakened Israelites, when it's feasible, when we know that people understand what we're saying, we switch, we code switch, if you will, and we say we use numbers instead of the days. So instead of Friday, we'll say on the sixth day. Instead of Saturday, we'll say either the seventh day or on the Sabbath day, which means seventh day. All right. So moving on to the third one, you have holy days versus holidays. The holy days are man-made and they're pagan. Yes, they are pagan. Christmas is pagan. Easter is pagan. Valentine's Day is pagan. If I'm correct, I'm pretty sure I am, but even Thanksgiving, you wouldn't think that it is, but there is more to the history of Thanksgiving than what we were taught growing up, than how we have been living, what we thought was the truth. Thanksgiving has a very morbid and deadly foundation, idolatrous foundation, beside what we've been taught all our lives. Christmas is based on, again, idolatry. People say, hey, well, give me a scripture. How you know God don't want to celebrate Christmas? Isn't that Jesus' birthday? No, it's not. It's not at all. As a matter of fact, you might be surprised to know that Christmas was a holiday before Jesus was even born. There's a false god named Tammuz. I don't want to go into too much of the history of Tammuz and how he came about. But his birthday was made on December 25th. So one of the reasons Emperor Constantine decided to, was it Constantine? It was either Emperor Constantine or Emperor Antiochus IV. One of those two decided, I think it was Constantine though, that in attempts to congeal the pagan society with the believers of the way, in order to kind of, almost like Abraham Lincoln, as the Bible says, nothing new under the sun. Constantine had a divided land, and he wanted to unite them. And so what he did is he did some mixing. I forget what I think brother Ron on the Truth Unedited YouTube channel says it's called syncretism, I believe. Mixing of different faiths, mixing of beliefs to be one. So that's what he did. In order to appease both sides, he put Jesus' birthday along with the idol gods who are already on December 25th, one of those being Tammuz, so that everyone could celebrate that day, their special day. Don't mind that my dark theme just kicked in. I have it set to sunset. That's what happened. So nothing wrong with your screen. Yeah, my dark theme timer just kicked in. So that's what happened. In order to appease both sides, he made put our Messiah's birthday on the same day as the idol, as the pagan gods they were worshiping, so that everyone would worship their Savior, their God at the same time. But Jesus was nowhere. No, that has nothing to do with Jesus' birth. As a matter of fact, not only is there not a scripture to support Jesus' birth being in the winter, but the Bible in a couple of places, Jeremiah chapter 10 being one of those places, explicitly speaks against what we now know as Christmas celebration. Of course, it wasn't called Christmas because there was no Christmas back then, because there was no Christ. There was no anointed one. There was no Hamashiach. But there was worship under evergreen trees. There was idolatrous practices under evergreen trees. Matter of fact, like I said, since we're on the internet, let's do a little Christmas so you can see for yourself. Christmas pagan origins. And I will bring this over here. I'm trying to find an older biblical picture. Yeah, Christmas is very pagan, and kind of the irony of Christmas being pagan is the main ones who either don't know or choose not to accept that Christmas is pagan are those who call themselves Christians. But even pagans know that Christmas is pagan. I've even seen on various social media posts where pagans actually make fun of Christians, accusing them of having stolen their holiday. Particularly some people who are part of the Wicca religion accuse Christians of theft, and they say, "Hey, you took our holiday and made it your own, but we made that holiday. That's the day we do our thing. That's a part of the winter solstice." But many Christians don't want to receive that because they are, I'll say, I guess, sentimentally attached to what Christmas has always meant, the memories they have created, and aren't willing to let that go. To know that, I mean, and honestly, I get it. So I'm not, I may sound critical and somewhat I am, but I'm also empathetic because I understand the difficulty, in thinking that you've been raised incorrectly. Your life was based on all this misinformation all this time, and you have to redo a lot of things. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance that takes place when you realize that there's so much that you enjoy, so much that so many memories, so many photo albums, especially if your loved ones are gone, so many, good times, so much nostalgia is based on these events that we thought we were doing the right thing. We thought we were worshiping Yahuwah. We thought we were celebrating Yahusha, God and Jesus respectively, only to find out that is actually not the case. We were doing just what Yahuwah tells us not to do. We were celebrating false gods. Let me see if I can find some old biblical style pictures, some artifacts that would better show you. But I'm sure you can kind of see just by some of these images what I'm talking about. Let me take out the word pagan, just put in origins. Christmas origins. That's not really one. There is actually an ancient relic where you get a better idea of what and you can tell it was from biblical times before we actually had evergreen trees. Well, before our version of evergreen trees. But just look that up on your own time. The pagan origins of Christmas. It is not of Yahuwah. He does not tell us to celebrate Christmas. As a matter of fact, he tells us, according to Scripture, we are told not to celebrate Christmas. We are told not to celebrate Easter. Even the very word Easter is based on the word Ashtaroth, which is derivative. Well, Ashtaroth. Easter comes from Ashtaroth, which is another false god, the goddess of fertility, who was actually celebrated by her followers with sex rituals, particularly orgies. Okay, I kind of messed this up. All right, let me do that. There we go. And I want I'll just drag it to the bottom. Okay. So we have that. Holidays versus the holidays. Now, in terms of, I've talked about what we shouldn't do. So what should we do? Well, you have, as opposed to Easter, you have Passover. You have Yom Kippur. You have the Feast of Trumpets. You have Sukkot. Those are the main ones right now. And probably, later on I'll go in depth into more of these. But this is more of an overview of the Western way versus God's way, or Yahuwah's way. And here's the tripped out part about it. We celebrate Easter, which is one day. And we have left, and many of us don't even know about Passover, which is actually an 8-day celebration. So we actually have given us, we took the short end of the stick. So yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Then we have the language. You have English, which is, as we know, it is right to left to right, and it's one dimensional. The letter A, B, C, etc. They are simply that. There's nothing less, nothing more. They're simply letters of the alphabet. Conversely, Hebrew is not only right to left, but as I can show you here, it reads like this. You can probably tell from the direction of the letters. It goes from right to left. But it's also multidimensional. Every letter, and I'll pull this up, every letter, well, in ancient Hebrew, there were no, what you just saw is modern Hebrew. In ancient Hebrew, there were pictures. So every letter has a picture and a numerical value. Pulling it up for you shortly. Again, I'll slide this over. Come on. I'm sure. Would have had this ready, but I wasn't really anticipating. Okay, is this the one I want? No, not really. Let's go to Hebrew. I mean, that is one. That's just not the one I'm looking for. Well, you'll get the point. Yes, I'll use this one anyway because you'll get the point. So the Hebrew alphabet is called an alphabet, even though it says alphabet, but it's called an alphabet. So each letter has a picture. Well, you know what? No, it's not. You're not going to get it from this one. Let me do something different. Where's the one I'm looking for? Let me clear these filters. Let me do a different search. This is what I want. Okay. So this is modern Hebrew right over here on the upmost left side. But you see it says ancient. This is the original form. So each letter, Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Wa or Vav, depending on who you talk to, Zayin, Chet, not Chet, but Chet, almost like you're about to spit. Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun or Nafesh, depending on who you talk to, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzadeh, Chof, Resh, Shin, and Tau. Because again, there's no V in Hebrew, so that'd be a Tau. Each letter has a numerical value. They go from 1 to 10, and then they go by tens until you get to 100, and then they go by hundreds. Okay. Starts at 1, ends at 400. Each has a name, a picture, and a value. Well, I shouldn't say name, but each, of course they have a name, like the letter A is A. Each has a meaning. That's what I should say. Each letter has a picture, a value, and a meaning. So each letter of Yahuwah's Aleph Beit, of our original culture, has a threefold meaning to it, as opposed to English, which is just a letter. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. All right. Then we have Yahusha's description. You have what people have been telling us is Yahusha is actually a natural man named Cesar Borgia. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Caesar Borgia. That is the image that that was popularized and we have taken as Yahusha all this time. That was a natural man. A man after whom Leonardo da Vinci, who was the painter of that picture on the left, had a homosexual infatuation with. And when this man's father, who was a Roman emperor, who thought himself to be a god or the extension thereof, he said, truly this is the Son of God. And so we have taken, that picture has made the rounds, if you will, as the Son of God ever since. However, so we've been worshiping this Eurocentric version of Yahusha all this time. But according to the word, he had hair as wool. That's not wool. That doesn't look like wool, does it? And feet as brass. My skin is as brass. Brass is dark. Brass has a brown hue to it. It's melanated. Melanin gives you a brown color. So if you are a fellow transatlantic slave trade descendant, then like I said, we not only we don't just have Yahusha's if you are a descendant and you are a believer of in Yahusha, we are not just have Yahusha's blood running through our veins spiritually, metaphorically. We literally have his blood running through our veins. He looked just like us. Woolly hair and dark skin. You may be light skinned looking at, you'd be like, well, I'm light skinned. That's as a result of colonization. You were originally dark, like many of us are. We come in all different shades because of colonization. All right, then you have community and family. America, as we has the ideology of, just do you, just whatever makes you happy. Just, it's all about you and I, you or I, me and mine. It's very singular, it's very individual. However, when the Bible refers to Israel, it's often talking about a commonwealth. People did things together. Israel was both blessed and cursed as a nation. And sometimes, individual tribes took on different things, but it wasn't just a person. If one person sinned, that was like the whole tribe or the whole nation of Yasharel being disobedient, and they were either rewarded or they were punished together. There wasn't you just messed up, so sucks to be you. You're gonna have to hear from Yahuwah. No, he would tell them, when if someone sinned, they had to get out the camp, or else the entire community, all the people would suffer what that one person did. As Scripture says, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Yep, that's how Yahuwah gets down. And we used to very much until we, as time has gone on, we have taken on the Western / Babylonian / American mindset. But we too, used to get down as a nation. Like the proverb says, it takes a village to raise a child. I grew up in a village. Many of us my age and older, those of us 40 plus, we grew up in villages where an elder was an elder. You respected that person, you listened to them, and they had your best interest in mind. Whether or not they knew your parents didn't even matter. We were family, which is why we call each other brother and sister, and we call older people uncle and auntie, and sometimes grandma and grandpa, because we use familial family terms to refer to each other, because we're all related. We have the same we have the same covenant, and then we also have the same background of oppression. We all been partaking in the same curses as outlined by Yahuwah because of what our ancestors did. Then, so you have the Sabbath, like I said, you have the Sabbath, which the West makes it Sunday, like I said earlier, due to Emperor Constantine but it's actually on the seventh day, the Saturday, which is a two word, Saturn's day, according to paganism. So it's actually the seventh day. I may probably some in later podcast, I'll go into more details about Constantine and Antiochus IV, so you can have a better idea of the impact they had on us as Israelites. Then you have times and seasons. According to the Western world, the new year takes place in January. It's in the coldest, most uninviting time that when things are dead, when you want to run in the house and there's not much sun, it stays dark for a long time. It's like that's when they have their new year. They say, oh yeah, things are new. Everything is dead. Everything is the days are dark. It's really cold. You don't want to be around. You don't want to go outside and be around people and fellowship and play. You more so want to be in your house. You want to be individual. You want to go to your each individual place. Run in the house or run in some building so you can get out the cold and in that whole mentality. There's no vegetation. There's just no life. Very little life. Period. The water's frozen. The sun comes and goes real quick. That's when the Western world has their new year. But the true new year is in the spring, when Yahusha was born and when he died. The spring, when things are coming to life. The new year, when the grasses, when the leaves start to come back on the trees, when the days start to get longer, when the flowers are budding and the sweet aroma of herbs and other flowers fill the air, when people want to come out and there's sounds of children playing and the birds are coming back out and you can hear them singing, and the bright colors are starting to show, and everything is coming back to life. That's a new year. And if you think about it, that makes much more sense than a winter new year when things are dead and it's cold and there's not much life. The springtime, when people feel free, it's time to go and shop again, and time to go to the park and play with your children again. Baseball season and just life starting all over. Success. Going on to the next one. Success is in the Western life is taking. Let me get what you got. Let me just take and take. Let me get to the next level. Let me get the next thing. Even if I got to get yours, let me just take. It's very individualistic. But according to Yahuwah, the more you give, the more blessed you are. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give unto your bosom. It's a kingdom mindset. A kingdom is all about everyone a kingdom operates by everyone in the kingdom. The king is looking out for the citizens, and the citizens are looking out for each other. They are interdependent and ultimately dependent on the king, which for us is Yahusha. Then you have the Bible, which I prefer to. I make a distinction now that I know better. I say the Bible when I'm referring to the modern King James 66 books, like it says here, the Eurocentric 66 books, versus Yahuwah's way, which is Afrocentric, because the Bible took place in Africa, and it has actually 88 books. So we were robbed of 22 books that have a whole bunch more truth and revelation for us to enjoy and live according to. So as I close, here are just some Hebrew phrases to get you going. I used to say Yahusha. Now I say I used to say Yeshua, but now I say Yahusha. I'm getting a little weary, so it just seemed like Yahusha makes more sense because Yah's name is in there. So I learned something different, so I switched. This actually information was made about a year ago. So some of what you'll be getting in subsequent podcasts is me reteaching what I've already put together from you may have heard of an old app called Periscope. I used to teach on there, and once Periscope became defunct, um, people got scattered, kind of like the us Israelites did, scattered across the four corners of the earth. And then we went to many of us. Some of us use Zoom uh, currently. Let's say for the past couple of years, some of us have been using Zoom, which is it's private. You have to know about it. Versus Periscope, which was public. You could see whoever was broadcasting. And so now, according to Yahuwah's instructions, I am. Well, he hasn't told me to switch, but I think that's what he wants me to do, to switch from my weekly Sabbath Zoom broadcast uh, to podcasts, so I can reach a bigger audience and more people. And so to help Yasharel awaken at a faster rate in bigger numbers, I'm now making podcasts. So I used to say Yeshua. I used to say Yeshua. Now I say Yahusha. Leila Tov is good night. Well, it actually should be Tob. This one I thought it was Tov. So I'll correct that, so that we know better. So Tob is good. You have Tob, which is good. Again, Hebrew is from right to left. You have Erev, which is evening, and Leila, which is night. So if you want to say Leila Tob, you're telling someone good night. Or Erev Tob, or you can say Boker Tob up here for a good morning. Then you have Shabua Tob. You could say it at the end, like at the sunset, at dusk or sunset of the seventh day, which will be the beginning of the first day, also known as Sunday. You would say Shabua Tob. So at the end of a Sabbath service, if you walk out in this evening, depending on what time of the year you do that, you would say Shabua Tob, which means have a good week. Boker Tob again is morning. I don't really remember how to pronounce that, and I'm kind of a little bit tired to even try. Good evening, good night, and Yahusha. So, having said that, it is now dark in my house. Alexa, make the light soft white.
Okay.
All right, now you can see me a little better. And let me close my blinds so people can't see my house, because I am on the first. Well, so hallelujah, Baruch atah Yahuwah Elohai Melech HaOlam, which is blessed be the name of Yahuwah, the everlasting King. I pray you have been blessed. Oh, you're right here. I pray you have been blessed. I pray that you got some good revelation, some good information, and that you will even take that which I just gave an overview of, and you will do your own research so Yahuwah can bless you with more detailed revelation information. You can make some necessary changes, you and perhaps your family. So, Haba, love you. Toda, thank you for coming, and I will see you next time. Be blessed.